Brain diseases. Parkinson's disease, part 1. Now, what is Parkinson's disease? Well, Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disease and a disorder of the central nervous system, specifically of the brain and spinal cord. It also falls underneath the category of motor system disorders because it causes many movement problems. Parkinson's disease is sometimes called the shaking palsy and is chronic and progressive. That means that it gets worse over time. Parkinson's disease, its symptoms and its life expectancy varies per individual, which is strange because in most diseases, a life expectancy difference is very common because it depends on what stage of the disease that you are. But symptoms don't usually vary, but in Parkinson's case, it does. Okay, now let's move on to symptoms. general are unpredictable. Also, most people who have Parkinson's don't die from symptoms, they die of the other effects of symptoms. So like I said, also, many people who have Parkinson's don't usually die from their symptoms, they die from the effects of the symptoms. For example, muscle stiffness could cause, let's say you have you will eventually get muscle stiffness in the throat and you could eventually choke. So also, not everyone will get all of the symptoms. A different patient will have different symptoms from another. So for example, out of the symptoms, you might only get 3 out of the 5, or you might get all 5, you might get 2. So, and it depends per person, so. Okay, now let's move on to the primary symptoms. So, the primary symptoms are rigidity, so your muscles and bones are going to get stiff. And rigidity comes in 2 forms, lead pipe and coglial. Lead pipe is smooth, so you'll feel the stiff area that you might have, let's say on your leg, very smooth. And coglial, which it'll feel kind of like the coglial, so more bumpy and like unpredictable, like you might have like stiff bumps, but then really like flexible, so. You may also have tremor or shaking. So tremors or shaking. You may also have bradykinesia, which is a slowness of moving because of slow brain response. Poor balance. And finally, you might have walking or gait problems. Now let's move on to the secondary symptoms. I'll write these here. So, the secondary symptoms are depression, and 50% of people who have Parkinson's disease suffer from depression. Many people have speech problems because the muscles around the face area will start to stiffen up. You may also have restlessness, so trouble sleeping. And finally, you may find yourself having mood swings. Now let's move on to the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. Okay, now the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease is very hard. In fact, it takes years. And 1 in 5 people get a misdiagnosis. Now, you are probably wondering, why is it hard? Why does it take years? And why do 1 in 5 people get a misdiagnosis? Well, that's because not all patients have the same symptoms. So, and this also happens because there are many similar diseases to this. So, which cause confusion. Those similar diseases would be progressive supranuclear palsy, multiple system atrophy, diffuse Lewy body disease, and Alzheimer's. Parkinsonism, which is part of the diagnosis. Now, Parkinsonism is the name given to a group of disorders that share symptoms but are caused by different things, and some of them are not true Parkinsonism, such as so they're basically a group of diseases similar to Parkinson's disease, but are caused by different things and have a few different symptoms, and they're not true Parkinson's. So one of them is arteriosclerotic Parkinsonism and drug-induced Parkinsonism, and they're reversible, but real Parkinson's isn't reversible. So now, once doctors rule out the Parkinsonism, like arteriosclerotic Parkinsonism or drug-induced Parkinsonism, they move on further. Now, they also diagnose Parkinson's disease by evaluating medical history. First, and they perform a battery of neurological tests. And they also use comparison, because since there's so many similar diseases to Parkinson's, then they can often get confused, which is very bad if they get confused, because if you give somebody the wrong treatment, things will get drastically worse. And they use comparison to compare the different diseases as well to figure out which one you most likely have. And they also use neuroimaging, which is fairly new. Now, neuroimaging measures which nerve cells are affected by the disease, and a type of neuroimaging, like a neurotechnique that used to assess how fast or far is the Parkinson's disease progresses over time, is a PET scan. So now we know what Parkinson's is. We know the symptoms, both secondary and primary, and how it's diagnosed. Now let's move on to the cause of Parkinson's. Okay, so now let's focus on the cause of Parkinson's disease. Now, Parkinson's disease usually and mostly occurs in the later years of your lifetime. And Parkinson's disease is mainly caused by a loss of certain cells in the central nervous system. Parkinson's disease can also be inherited from your genes. And Parkinson's can also be caused by certain environmental effects. Now, let's look into the deeper picture and into like the underlying effects. Now, let's focus on the underlying effects. So, the underlying effects are really damages to the neurotransmitters in your brain. Now, this specifically damages the brain cells that produce dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that regulates movement. It also damages norepinephrine, which regulates blood pressure, pulse rate, perspiration, and other stress responses. Now, it also damages serotonin, and serotonin is involved in mental and emotional functioning, and disruptions can cause depression, anxiety, and other emotional disorders. And another neurotransmitter that it damages is gamma aminobutyric acid, which is known as GABA, and it is an inhibitory, and glutamate, which is excitatory, and one inhibits neutrons and one exits neutrons, and when not working, this will cause sleep problems. So basically, GABA and glutamate work together to help you sleep. One of them keeps you awake, one of them makes you fall asleep. And when this is damaged, you will start to have sleep problems. Now, so those are all the damages to neurotransmitters that the disease itself does, which is known as the underlying effects. Now, another cause of it is that it is linked to gene mutations, and it's caused by gene mutations such as like chromosomes and genes and DNA, like genetic influences. And pesticides and herbicides can cause a 50 to 70% increase in risk. So those were the certain environmental effects, and the inherited from genes part, that is also an underlying effect. So gene mutation. You just ruined my video. I just take out this part. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to the next video for Parkinson's Part 1. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next video, which will be Parkinson's Part 2, where we will teach you how the treatments for Parkinson's and how you deal with it and more. Daddy ruined my video.